Hey there, Redneck Preppy with you today, and a video on so you want to buy a Jeep Wrangler or other off-road vehicle. Now, I'm going to say at the outset that this video is not aimed at two groups of people. One, the people who are just buying these vehicles as their daily driver, a grocery getter. The furthest off-road they're going to get is maybe driving up to camp on a gravel road or things like that. They bought it primarily, let's say, because it's reliable, or it'll be good in snow if they live in an area where that happens. This video is not for you. This video is intended for people who are buying these vehicles and intend on using them at some point for more serious off-road activities, whether it's mud, whether it's sand, whether it's rock crawling, whether it's overlanding, whatever it may be. So if you're not one of those people, you might want to skip this video. Number two, this is not a technical video. I am not going to get into the nuts and bolts of upgrading your vehicle. I'm not going to tell you which lift is the best, which, tires you can fit on a stock Wrangler or Bronco, whatever it may be. I'm not going to get into that stuff. There are plenty of videos, forums, articles that you can read that'll give you the technical details about that sort of thing. I'm looking at this as a high level kind of view of what is it that you should consider before you embark down these paths that you can go down. So number one is buy the most capable vehicle that you can afford, whether that's the Wrangler Rubicon, whether it's one of the higher end Broncos when that vehicle starts rolling out. And there's a good reason for that. And this is my perspective. Some people disagree. That's fine. I own a Willys Wrangler Edition Jeep. Now that is, at least according to Chrysler, their rock crawling package. And it comes with an enhanced suspension, whatever that may be or mean. It comes with 373 gearing, which is actually good for when you upsize your tires. And it comes with rock rails. But that's essentially it. I mean, it doesn't actually offer you some of the specific equipment that you should have when you're rock crawling. A Rubicon, stock Rubicon, comes with a heavy-duty transfer case. It comes with front and rear lockers. It comes with electronic sway bar disconnects. It's lifted slightly. I think it's 2 or 3 inches. I'm not sure. It comes with 33-inch tires. That's actually a pretty good starting point for then upgrading your vehicle if you want. I've spent over the past not quite 2.5 years, in the low 5 figures upgrading my my Wrangler, and I've got a rear locker. I have a 2.5-inch lift, 35-inch tires. I have manual sway bar disconnects and some other components. Having spent all that money, I'm still not even at a Rubicon level. So if you want to save yourself some time, perhaps maybe not some money, but probably at least time, I would go with the highest level package that you can get. And that way you save yourself the effort and the expense of upgrading to components that already exist on a Rubicon. I know the temptation is there to believe that, if I buy a used Sahara or a Sport, I can then spend the money on upgrades and still come in below the price of a new Rubicon. Fair enough, but the new Rubicons, or even like a couple of years old, offer technology that the older JKs and even older than that don't have. So it's my belief that you should start immediately as high as you possibly can, and for me that would be a Rubicon or a higher level Bronco package or whatever vehicle it is that you intend on getting. Next up, and I think this is a piece of advice a lot of people probably don't want to hear or probably will ignore, is wait a year before modifying your vehicle. Drive your vehicle for a whole year. Learn how it drives. Learn how it reacts in different situations. How does it react on rainy roads? How does it react on gravel? How does it react in snow? Even take it out to some green level trails and see how it works there. I think you'll be, amazed as to how capable, let's say, a Wrangler, because that's the experience that I have, is on lower end trails, the green level trails, and even slightly more difficult trails. I think you'll be pretty impressed. And that'll give you at least an idea as where you want to start concentrating your money on and time on first. You may say to yourself, you know what, This proves I need bigger and better tires or a lift, particularly if you're rock crawling. You know, a winch. Winch should be amongst your first purchases and installations. Do I need, sway bar disconnects for what I'm doing? That sort of thing. Take that year and figure out what it is you're actually going to need so you can create a plan. Which kind of leads me to my second point, is think about what you want to do with your vehicle. And carefully plan out how you're going to get from point A to point B. You're going to save yourself a lot of money because, one, you can save a lot of money and buy the best that you possibly can rather than buy cheap and then upgrade later, which is what a lot of people do. Buy once, cry once is a real thing. So carefully plan how you're going to get to where you want. Next is weigh advice carefully. Every Jeep owner, and I'm pretty sure every Bronco owner, and every vehicle of every off-road type is going to have advice as to what you should do. And a lot of it is going to be conflicting advice. A lot of people are going to tell you should do this over this, and then you talk to the next person and they're going to offer you the exact same or opposite perspective. Everyone has an opinion, and some of it is based on actual experience, and you'll find out who those people are over time, or some of them are just regurgitating whatever they read on a Facebook group or some, wranglerforum.com or wherever it is that they picked up their learned opinion. So, find out who you can trust and then start gleaning some advice from them. If there's one thing I've learned is everyone wants to spend your money. It's very easy for them, and they almost gain some satisfaction with you going in the direction that they think you ought to and spending the amount of money that they think you should. Research. There are more lift kits in the world than there are grains of sand on the ocean, or on the beach, sorry. Do your research on that. What kind of tires do you need? Do your research on that. What kind of upgraded components, steering and suspension do you need? Do your research on that. There are so many different options out there, particularly for Jeep Wranglers at this point, because, obviously they've been around for decades, that it's very easy to misspend your money. So do the research. Find out what it is that you should be getting. Next up is understand you're going to be spending money. If you do intend on upgrading your vehicle to do, the things that I mentioned before, like rock crawling, overlanding, mud and sand, understand you're going to be spending money because it's not cheap to get into this game. This stuff costs money, and there's no real way around that. So if you spend your money smartly the first time, you're not going to end up being screwed later on, having to replace components. That's one of the traps that I fell into. I wanted to lift my Jeep so badly at the beginning that I ended up buying a lift kit from a chap local to me. And I rode with it for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and it did the job. I'm not going to criticize it. But at the end of the day, it was kind of a compromise lift kit. It wasn't of great quality. It didn't really give me what I wanted. So I ended up having to replace that lift kit this summer with another lift kit. Granted, this new lift kit was kind of necessary because I needed to change out some suspension components. So I just said, screw it. Let's just go this direction and replace that old lift kit. But at the end of the day, had I chosen at the beginning a better option, saved up for it, maybe waited a couple of months, I probably would have saved myself that money again down the line. So don't spend twice. And understand that quality costs money too. Yeah, you can go and get some kind of cheap winch just to satisfy the fact that you have a winch on the front. But if you save your money for a couple months, you can afford to get a nice winch, a quality winch, one that you can rely on, because there's nothing worse than when you're out in the woods or you're on a trail or whatever it may be and you need your winch and your cheap winch blows out. The solenoid just fries. Well, you've got a winch, doesn't do much for you. Steering and suspension components, it's very tempting to buy the cheapest or some Amazon special. understand that if you're going off-road, you know, these things are going to be under greater stress and strain, and that you should get heavier duty ones, and that costs money. Yeah, so basically spend your money. Understand you'll be spending money anyway. This one is optional, but it'll save you a lot of money, and that is learn to do the work yourself, or have a very good qualified mechanic who likes you and will cut you a deal on some of the work that you can do. There's a lot of work that you can do yourself on these vehicles, particularly Jeep Wranglers, which are almost like Lego toys. You know, if you can do your own, let's say, front and rear bumper and put a winch on, you may take a lot longer than a qualified mechanic or, you know, off-road specialist will. But you'll also save yourself a lot of money, because that's a lot of work, a lot of hours. And if you can save yourself some money on the back end with the installation, you know, do it yourself. Some of the stuff that you might not feel comfortable with, your steering and suspension components, understandable. You know, replacing your brakes, I get it. I paid for all of that stuff, but I did do a lot of the work on the Jeep myself. So learn to do some work yourself, which also means make sure you have the tools that you need, not only for the work that you do, you know, in your own garage, but when you're off-road, you can actually try and fix some of the problems that you may encounter. You break a component, you might be able to replace it while you're out there, if you have tools, the knowledge, and hopefully maybe even the part. This one is important, and I've learned hard over the past 2-3 years, is budget for maintenance. If you're going off-road, there's a very good chance that you're going to break stuff. If you're upgrading your steering and suspension, you're putting a lift on it and all that stuff, understand that these parts, Chrysler designed the Jeep Wrangler, to take an example, with certain specifications. If you start changing components, you start putting a lift on all that stuff, you're now changing a lot of the geometry and a lot of the stress points and all that stuff, which means you're at a higher risk for breaking things or wearing components out faster. Understand that you're going to be spending money for maintenance. Budget for that. Save money for that. If you don't spend that money, fantastic. But chances are, if you're doing things that the Wrangler and the Bronco were designed to do, but still in risk of damaging things, you're going to need money to fix these things. So budget for maintenance. Absolutely important. Anyway, those are just a couple of thoughts that I had on the topic. Learned through a lot of trial, effort, and money and time. I hope it helps you out. And I hope you get out there. I hope you buy one of these vehicles and you get out and you're going to have a great time. At any rate, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. As always, if you liked the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down and tell me why you didn't like the video. If you have your own advice, feel free to leave it in the comments below. In the description below, you'll find links to my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Yes, I'm on Instagram now. I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing with it, but I'm on there, so feel free to check that out as well. And that's about it. I hope you have a great time out on the trails. Take care and have a great day.